Picture this: a woman hailed as the embodiment of strict yet loving parenting, guiding millions of followers with her family-focused YouTube channel. A mother of 6, whose every move was documented and celebrated online, preaching the value of tough love and discipline. But then, one day, everything shatters. She's arrested, her reputation in ruins, and her children are whisked away by authorities. This isn't the latest Netflix thriller. This is the true story of Ruby Franke, the once beloved YouTuber whose life unraveled into a horrifying nightmare of child abuse allegations and psychological torment. How did she go from family icon to accused abuser? And what dark secrets were festering behind the screen all along? Buckle up, because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about online influencers. Ruby Franke wasn't your average vlogger. She wasn't sharing beauty tips, travel guides, or viral dance challenges. No, Ruby had carved out a unique niche in the vast world of YouTube, a channel dedicated to the strict discipline of her children. Her channel, 8 Passengers, became famous for showing her rigorous approach to parenting. Ruby didn't sugarcoat her rules. She believed in tough love, and her viewers admired her for it. But now, that admiration has turned into horror. Ruby Franke's channel wasn't just a glimpse into her family's life. It was a blueprint for raising children with harsh discipline at its core. Her 6 children, who appeared in nearly every video, were often the focus of Ruby's teachings. Fans would watch as Ruby withheld food or privileges as punishment, sometimes even leaving her children to fend for themselves for days. Criticism poured in, with some viewers accusing Ruby of being too strict, even cruel. But she brushed it off, claiming it was all part of building character. For years, Ruby was untouchable. She had legions of fans who defended her at every turn, claiming that her methods, while unconventional, were effective. But as her channel grew, so did the unease among those watching. The children seemed anxious, constantly walking on eggshells, afraid to make a wrong move. Then, things took a turn when Ruby began collaborating with a woman who would change the course of her life forever, Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi wasn't a typical business partner. She ran Connections, a so-called life coaching program that promoted extreme discipline and control, particularly over children. Jodi's methods went far beyond what anyone had seen on Ruby's channel. Her philosophy? Control everything. Isolate, punish, and break down the will of those under your care. Ruby, already deeply rooted in her authoritarian parenting style, was drawn to Jodi's teachings like a moth to a flame. Together, Ruby and Jodi began a podcast, using their platform to promote their brand of parenting. Their rhetoric was troubling, filled with statements about moral correctness and the importance of stripping children of their selfish desires. But what viewers didn't know was that behind the scenes, Ruby had fallen under Jodi's dangerous spell. The discipline that once seemed merely excessive quickly spiraled into something far more sinister. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came when one of Ruby's sons escaped from Jodi Hildebrandt's home. He was starving, covered in bruises, and his wrists were bound with duct tape. He begged a neighbor for food and water, barely able to stand. Authorities were immediately called, and what they found inside the home left them horrified. Investigators uncovered a house of horrors. Ruby's son wasn't just being disciplined. He was being tortured. For days, he had been denied food, water, and even basic medical care. His body was covered in open wounds, evidence of the long-term abuse he had suffered. But the most disturbing part? Ruby had been fully complicit in everything. Not only had she condoned the abuse, but she had actively participated in it, all in the name of correcting her children. The public was stunned. How could this happen? How could a mother who had spent years preaching family values allow something so horrific to occur? The arrest of Ruby Franke sent shockwaves through the YouTube community and beyond. Her fans felt betrayed, while her critics finally had the confirmation they had long suspected. Something was very, very wrong inside the Franke household. But this story is far from over. As authorities dig deeper, disturbing new details emerge. Details that suggest the abuse may have been going on for much longer than anyone realized. Were there signs that people missed? And how did Ruby's husband fit into this twisted dynamic? It's one thing for a public figure to have a fall from grace, But it's another entirely when that fall is riddled with the haunting cries of abused children. Ruby Franke's arrest wasn't just a scandal. It was a wake-up call. How many other seemingly perfect families are hiding dark secrets behind their online personas? What kind of psychological control could drive a mother to inflict such harm on her own children? And more importantly, how did no one see this coming? Prepare for a deep dive into the Franke family's twisted world, a world where the facade of family values masks a horrifying truth that no one could have imagined. As the case against Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt moved forward, the scope of the abuse began to come into focus. What had initially seemed like an isolated incident turned out to be just the tip of the iceberg. Ruby's children, now in protective custody, began to open up about the years of torment they had endured. Their stories painted a picture of a household ruled by fear and control, where even the smallest mistake could lead to extreme punishment. Neighbors and friends, once charmed by Ruby's seemingly strict but loving nature, were now horrified. They recalled strange incidents, times when the children appeared unusually thin, withdrawn, and scared to speak. But no one had ever suspected the true extent of the abuse. After all, Ruby was a public figure, a YouTube star with millions of followers. How could someone so successful, so admired, be capable of such evil? The more investigators dug, the more they uncovered. Ruby wasn't just following Jodi Hildebrandt's teachings, she had fully embraced them. Jodi's influence over Ruby was profound, pushing her deeper into a world of control and submission. Jodi believed that children were inherently selfish and that it was a parent's duty to break their spirit. Under her guidance, Ruby's parenting methods went from strict to dangerous. But what about Ruby's husband, Kevin? He had been a regular presence on their YouTube channel, often backing Ruby's decisions. Yet in the wake of Ruby's arrest, Kevin remained oddly silent. Did he know what was happening to his children? Was he complicit, or was he another victim of Jodi's psychological manipulation? These are the questions that still haunt those following the case. As more evidence emerged, it became clear that Ruby had long since crossed the line from discipline to outright abuse. The children's stories were heartbreaking, being locked in basements for days at a time, denied food and water, and forced to endure physical punishments that left them scarred both physically and emotionally. Yet for years, this abuse had gone unnoticed by the outside world, hidden behind the glossy veneer of their YouTube channel. The media frenzy surrounding the case only grew as more details came to light. News outlets, podcasts, and true crime enthusiasts dissected every new revelation, trying to piece together how such a seemingly perfect family had fallen apart so completely. The case became a flashpoint for discussions about the dangers of social media and the pressures it places on influencers to maintain a perfect image, no matter the cost. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of this story is the way Ruby Franke used her platform to justify her actions. Even after her arrest, she maintained that she was doing what was best for her children. She claimed that Jodi's teachings had helped her see the truth, that her children needed to be corrected, even if it meant using extreme methods. It was this twisted belief system that ultimately led to her downfall. As the trial looms, the world waits to see what will happen next. Will Ruby and Jodi be held accountable for their actions? And what will become of the children who have suffered so much at the hands of their own mother? One thing is certain, this story is far from over. The shocking details that continue to emerge will keep people talking for years to come. Ruby Franke's story serves as a grim reminder of the dangers lurking in the world of online influencers. Behind the carefully curated videos and picture-perfect images, there can be unimaginable darkness. This isn't just a story about a mother who lost her way. It's a story about the devastating consequences of unchecked power, manipulation, and control. As the world watches this case unfold, we are left to wonder, how many other Ruby Frankes are out there, hiding in plain sight?